witness.
Ma'am, would you raise your right hand, please? Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you shall give will be the whole truth and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, I do.
Could you please state your name and your home address for the record, please?
Lillian Velma Foley.
Okay. And what was your job at ORMC?
I was an RN case manager.
Do you know a woman named Rachel Bean?
I remember from reviewing my documentation that there was a Rachel that I spoke to.
Okay. Ms. Foley, I specifically now want to go through the Orlando Regional Medical Center records. It says Sunbelt/Rachel. Does that mean that in filling this out you also spoke with Rachel from Sunbelt?
Yes.
The admitting diagnosis was rectal bleeding. Son, inappropriate. See notes. Do you see that?
Yes.
Tell me, first of all, what notes are you referring to?
The notes below?
Okay. And those are all notes that you wrote?
Yes.
Why don't you read the next sentence from presented to where the next period is?
Presented with rectal bleeding after patient's son was witnessed in disimpacting her, states Rachel RN at Sunbelt.
Do I take that to mean from that Rachel told you that Mr. DiStefano was seen at Sunbelt disimpacting his mother?
Yes.
Okay. Back to the ORMC records. Could you go ahead and read from the comments portion there that Lillian Foley writes?
Presented with rectal bleeding after patient's son was witnessed disimpacting her, states Rachel RN. Sunbelt has trespassed son from their facility and has reported to 1-800-96-ABUSE.
Okay. Did you tell Lillian Foley that Carolina DiStefano was bleeding from her rectum?
Previously asked and answered.
No, I didn't. And in the way that this is worded, presented with rectal bleeding would lead anybody to believe that she came to the ER and presented there with rectal bleeding.
All right. It says presented with rectal bleeding, and what's the sign after that?
After.
Okay, presented with rectal bleeding after patient's son was witnessed disimpacting her, states Rachel RN. Would that, at Sunbelt, would that not lead you to believe that at least Lillian Foley was writing that you told her that she had rectal bleeding after the patient's son was witnessed disimpacting her?
Form calls speculation.
As I've told you before, I never told Lillian Foley that the son was witnessed disimpacting his mother.
Would you agree with me that Lillian Foley, at the very least here, wrote that you told her that she presented with rectal bleeding?
Form document speaks for itself.
You can answer it.
That's what I read, yes.
Okay, thank you. Can you read for me what you wrote there?
For telephone call to Sunbelt SNF, Rachel RN, nursing supervisor, 898-5051. Patient's son was witnessed lying on top of the patient who has a Glasgow coma score of 7, kissing her with his mouth open, quote, in a way a son would not kiss his mother, unquote. Sunbelt sent patient to ORMC because of rectal bleeding.
And at that time, Rachel RN, nursing supervisor, told you that the patient's son was witnessed lying on top of the patient, kissing her with his mouth open in a way a son would not kiss his mother. Correct?
Yes.
As we sit here today, do you have a recollection of this conversation with Rachel Bean?
I remember being on the phone with her. Yes.
Can you start reading? I'm just going to ask you to read the first note, the 1630 note.
Sure. Per telephone call to Sunbelt SNF / Rachel RN nursing supervisor, patient's son was witnessed lying on top of the patient, kissing her with his mouth open, quotes, in a way a son would not kiss his mother, quote. Sunbelt sent patient, arrow, ORMC, because of rectal bleeding.
Would you agree with me that it says that Sunbelt sent the patient to ORMC because of rectal bleeding?
That's what the note says, yes.
Okay. Was that the reason that Sunbelt sent the patient to ORMC?
Sunbelt didn't send the patient to ORMC. Dr. Black sent the patient to ORMC. And the patient was sent there for further evaluation due to blood that was found on a bed pad.
Okay. All right. And I guess first could you explain to the jury why was Mrs. DiStefano transferred out of the nursing home?
at the time, one of the nurses, I can't remember who it was, but it was suggested that it would be better to transfer Mrs. Stefano to a different facility, ORMC.
Did you, in fact, tell ORMC that the patient was being sent there because of rectal bleeding?
I didn't transfer the patient, so I wouldn't have made that call, and no, I did not tell Lillian Foley that either.
It appears in this record, does it not, that they gained that information from you?
No, it appears in the record that it says Sunbelt sent the patient to ORMC because of rectal bleeding. It then says that Rachel RN, we sent her to ORMC as neutral grounds.
All right. And do you see 1, 2, 3, 4 lines above that where it says per telephone conference to Sunbelt, Rachel RN, nursing supervisor, patient's son was witnessed lying on top of the patient, kissing her with his mouth open in a way a son would not kiss his mother, and then says Sunbelt sent patient to ORMC because of rectal bleeding?
Yes, I see that.
Okay.
Please raise your right hand. You solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
Could you please tell us your name and your home address for the record, please?
Kelly Gregg?
You were a nurse at ORMC?
Yes, sir.
Are you an RN?
Yes, sir.
How is it that you became involved with Carolina DeStefano's care?
I was assigned that room assignment in that patient.
Okay. Looking at page A6, could you read that to me, please?
Nursing home staff reports bright red blood on bed at rectum, abdomen non-soft.
Okay, and then that's your signature under that.
Yes, sir.
Who gave you that information?
From my recollection, it would have come from a nursing home staff report.
Okay. Would you have actually talked to anybody at the nursing home?
Yes, sir.
Okay, do you recall who you spoke with?
No, sir.
But you know you got a phone call when Carolina DeStefano came to ORMC from the nursing home?
Yes, sir.
And to the best of your knowledge, that was Sunbelt Nursing Home?
According to the records.
Is that all you recall?
Yes, sir.
That you received from them upon transfer?
Yes, sir.
And then it said bright red blood on bed at rectum. Did you take that to mean that the bright red blood was coming from her rectum?
Yes.
How would it come about that you would speak with somebody at her prior facility?
The transferring facility usually calls a report to the receiving nurse.
All right, and would you be the receiving nurse?
Yes, sir.
Okay, to the best of your recollection, is that what happened in this case?
Yes, sir.
Could you read for me in the towards the upper left-hand corner assessment?
By Kelly Pipkin, is that
Correct.
who you're referring to?
Yes, ma'am.
Nursing home staff reports bright red blood on pad at rectum, abdomen non-soft.
Did you, in fact, report that there was bright red blood on the pad at the rectum to Kelly Pipkin?
As I told you before, I don't remember ever speaking to Kelly Pipkin.
You see where it says HPI on that same page?
Yes.
And the first line says rectal bleeding per nursing home? Did you, in fact, provide that information?
As I told you before, no, I did not.
Okay, do you know who provided that information?
No, I do not.
All right, would you agree with me that there is notations in the Orlando Regional Medical Center records and the DCFS records that we've just gone over that Carolina DeStefano was bleeding from her rectum?
Yes, there is notation of that.
All right. And are you aware that Dr. Black did not find any bleeding from her rectum?
According to Dr. Black's notes, his progress notes stated there was no obvious source of bleeding.
All right. And do you also understand that Orlando Regional Medical Center found no bleeding from her rectum?
I haven't reviewed the record to find that.
Okay. Do you know of anyone actually that found that she was bleeding from her rectum?
No, I do not.
But yet these statements appear in the DCFS records and the Orlando Regional Medical Center records, correct, ma'am?
That is correct, but when you tell somebody and you're giving a report that there's bright red blood on a pad that normally goes under somebody's buttocks area, it's very likely somebody would assume that it's rectal bleeding.
Okay. Do you know for a fact that that's what they assumed?
Form.
At DCFS and at ORMC?
They're the ones that wrote the statement of rectal bleeding. There's nothing in my nurse's notes stating rectal bleeding, so
So you don't know?
I don't know.